Welcome everyone. Little change of plans today. We originally were going to do a show about insurance and talk about all those different offers that you get in the mail and online for all the different specialty insurances. Unfortunately, we had a last minute cancellation. Our insurance experts weren't able to make it. We rescheduled for the 9th. They'll be here. So if you have any questions on insurance, whether you should buy the Life Flight insurance is being advertised on a lot of podcasts right now, or if you should think about getting any of the utility insurance that is constantly being pushed by different power companies, gas companies. That we try to dig into that. But while since we don't really have a guest today, I wanted to take some time to go in and dig into some questions that came up with past shows. And it's going to be a short one today because there were only a few questions, but I think that they probably deserve a little bit of, because they've been asked a lot, they deserve a little bit of an answer. So I'm going to try and go a little bit deeper into these things and see if we can at least cover some additional questions that came up about past shows. So the first thing that was asked is something that came up in one show about why different professionals need different business strategies and different marketing strategies to support those. So the example that's usually given is a professional who's just starting out and wants to needs to take on uh, whatever clients they can find to kind of build their business from the ground up. And so at that point, you're usually getting most of your business from referrals. And those referrals tend to be all over the map as far as what their needs are. So they're not really fitting a specialization that you're working on. So a lot of times we'll take a professional, say, an insurance agent or somebody like that, who doesn't necessarily have a specialty when they're starting out. They're getting referrals from friends and family, and they're starting to find out what their local market is and what they should specialize in and who they can help and who they can't help, and what's a good client and what's a bad client. So in that case, we're really not being the marketing strategy really is to try to get name recognition and get the person's business up and running. So that's a very open market. It's something that we really focus on local business, whereas the person has been in business for 10 or 15 years. They found a type of insurance that they specialize in. They've got a very specific clientele that they can help. They've got some very specific problems that they can help. And so they are a much more specialized agent. Also, these problems that they work on are usually a lot more difficult, and it's a lot more valuable to their clientele to get them solved. So we want to pitch them to a very specific clientele because it not only helps their clientele, but it also helps them in how much money they can earn. So if we can get them into a very specific client and have them really target their efforts at finding those high value clients, we can have them add value in a better way. We can also allow them to increase their income and revenue as they're finding clients that have more specialized problems, and those problems are more aligned with what they can do and aligned with what they've geared their agency towards. So it's really important, as even for individual professionals, to kind of take stock of what their career is and what their specialties are and what problems they can solve, and kind of suss out a business strategy that makes the best use of that and focuses on those things instead of generalization, so that we can bring in high value clients and offer high value services so that those experienced people or people who have specialized knowledge are actually providing that, maximizing their ability to solve problems, maximizing their income, and maximizing the results that they bring in for their clientele. So that's just a good example. And one of the things that we did mention is when you start specializing, there's a couple things you need to think about. One is, am I charging enough? Do I need to increase my prices because I'm looking at a very specialized problem that I'm solving? And do I want to focus on that? And if I've got a very full client deck where I've got my schedule really tight, and bringing on new clients is going to be hard, and most of my income comes from my own activities, then I need to my only way to increase my revenue and my income is to charge more. And that you might be able to use increasing your prices as a way of self-selecting to those people who absolutely need your services. And you can think about whether you want to do that for everything you do, for all your existing clients, and slowly raise your prices with them, or you just may be that you want to kind of self-select new clients and have new client pricing be higher, and that way you kind of self-select new clients while you're keeping your old clients. Another idea that we usually promote is the idea of trying to find another professional to bring on, and having another person that you can add into your business, having a protege that you bring on to the business and start them out with the lower dollar clients or the more general clients, kind of let them develop and slowly build the same expertise so you have somebody to turn over to. A lot of times we'll try to we'll look for family members. It's not as common these days, but it used to be very common to have family businesses where the person who owned the agency, or sometimes it's the couple that owns an agency, will bring on one of their children to work in the business, and they'll kind of learn the ropes that way, taking on some of the more generalized customers or generalized aspects of all customers, and slowly be able to take on more work that way, and eventually have a path to hand the business off. So there's no cookie cutter answer for what to do in this, but typically as your business evolves, it's a good idea to focus on the specific problems that you solve and how you can specialize in those, market towards the clientele that have those specific problems, and increase the value that you're offering to those customers and clients, so that you can build a business around solving a problem that is growing and has a very specific set of clients that you want to bring on. Alright, I think I've ruined the leather on that one. The second question involved co-marketing or co-op marketing. And this is really important if you're thinking about opening a franchise, if you're going to do a multi-level marketing business, or if you're going to be a distributor for anything, any type of products. All of those, you're typically dealing with a product or a service that somebody else has taken the time to refine, build a trade name for, really make it a recognizable product, and you're trying to follow their pattern as far as selling it, marketing it, and supporting it and running your business. So a lot of times the value that they provide is not just in the product that you don't have to develop, or the processes and procedures for supporting it and selling it, but also the materials that they provide you to market their product. Those materials provide a uniform view of the product across the country or across the world, and those materials can be very valuable for you. And being able to use them in social media, print, video advertising is something that you really should be focusing on. And if you're looking at a product or service that doesn't have that kind of support, and you're comparing it to another product that does, a lot of times that product support is going to be a big differentiator that's going to allow you to be profitable or not. Because the minimum ante for most small businesses for their marketing efforts is about 1% of their gross revenues. That's kind of the minimum that most businesses get by using. And if your budget is really tight and you have to develop your own materials and figure out what works, then you can very easily start spending a lot more on your marketing efforts. And then you also have to figure out whether or not you're reinventing the wheel and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Whereas if you are working with an organization that has pretty well refined their marketing materials and provide you with high quality information to share on social media, post on your website, share with your community, those are the kind of things that are going to make your life as a new entrepreneur starting a new business much easier. So we always look for that kind of stuff. I do a lot of coaching with small business owners who are just trying to get up off the ground, and one of the things they don't have a lot is time to develop material, and they don't have a lot of budget to develop material. So if the products that they're selling come with a lot of that already done, and even better if they come with a budget for advertising, that's even better. So the co-marketing materials is very important, for any of these small businesses getting up off the ground. I know a lot of the multi-level marketing opportunities don't necessarily have good marketing materials. That's one of the things you really have to evaluate. How much support are you getting from a product? And in this day and age, you really don't have to put up with a product that doesn't have good marketing materials, because when you got into the marketplace, no matter how good your product is, if you can't get people to look at it, you're not going to be able to sell many. And a lot of times, the development of the product is cost less than actually the developing of the marketing materials that have to go out and sell it. We think that a good product sells itself, and to a certain extent that's true once it gets out in front of an audience. But getting that product out in front of the audience is really difficult, and it's a very crowded world, and there are a lot of people out there who are really, really good at marketing. And so we don't want to get lost in the crowd. We want to get out there and really do a good job and having the path where we can get people into our sales funnel as easily as possible, and having really good refined materials that have had some amount of budget behind them to be developed and tested and refined does a lot for us. So when we're looking for those opportunities of what to select our business in, being able to have good co-marketing materials should be a big concern for us. All right, going through these pretty quick. The third question had a lot to do with, I brought in two guys to talk about the financial state of the art of where we are, and what kind of planning we should be doing for 2022. And both of them avoided talking about uh, the legislative risks of changes that have been in the news um, pretty much for the last year. And the reason that they didn't talk about those is because none of those have passed. There's been plenty of proposals. Everybody has an idea. There have been several different bills that have gone into Congress. None of those have passed. So the reason we didn't talk about a lot of those big changes is it looks like none of them are going to come to pass. There may be some compromise, smaller legislation that revives them, but as of now, they are all dead in the water. And it looks like, if they don't get any activity by springtime, we're going to be into the midterm elections, and the chances of any of them passing after that are pretty slim. Those are not the kind of things that get touched right before a big election. And a lot of those proposals would necessarily hurt the donor class. And so I really think that probably what happened is a lot of Congress members went home into their district or their state and started talking to their donor base, and a lot of the details of what they were thinking kind of got discussed, and just how bad those were going to be for the donor base was apparent. And so I think that it's highly unlikely that any of those proposed tax changes are actually going to make it. And it was little known that right at the beginning of COVID, there were some changes that happened then that kind of got swamped out in the COVID news. So maybe it might be worth going back and revisiting those. I kind of assumed everybody knew um, what they were and how they worked, which is why we didn't cover them, because we were concentrating on what's coming up in 2022. So we might try to get one of those two guys, or maybe a couple other folks I know, to come on and talk about the changes that had already happened, and if why people weren't aware of them, because there were some pretty big things that went on there. But as of right now, it doesn't look like any of the changes that were proposed are actually going to happen. If they do, we'll try to get somebody on and talk about them and kind of go over what you need to talk to about with your tax advisor. Also, it is tax season now, so you should be talking to your tax advisor, your accountant, and your financial advisor to discuss what your strategy should be. We try to talk about general answers to the questions as to what they mean in general, but they don't apply to any one person. But we try to arm you with a little bit of what's involved and what your tax specialist and your investment specialist should be speaking to you about, and some subjects that if they don't bring them up, you should kind of evaluate the advice they're giving you. So that's the approach. And so as soon as we get some information about new laws passing, I'll try to bring somebody on. And it's probably a good idea to have somebody come in and talk about the changes that have happened in the past, or right before and during COVID, because that's probably something that most people were not paying much attention to. COVID kind of took all the air out of the room, and the whipsaw, the market dropping and then coming back, and now seeming to run out of steam a little bit at the beginning of the year. Seems to have dominated headlines. So I'll make note of that and try to bring someone on to talk about those changes. And the last question we're going to look at today is something that came up in our discussion with Vicki Field, which was not popular on YouTube, and I thought it should have been. Should have gotten a lot more, but it's been popular in other venues. Um, Vicky's a great person, and she really knows her stuff. But we had a discussion about um, when you're setting your goals, should you set goals that are based on your results or your activity? And I like to set goals based on activity and measure my success based on my results. And that confused a lot of folks. So I kind of want to go a lot deeper into that. So, the maybe the weight loss example isn't the best. Um, so let's try an example. I'm sorry, I have a couple of dogs here who are wanting some attention. Um, Maybe the a better example would be a salesman, and a salesman has some activities that he does that generate appointments. Um, so if he sends out emails to his prospects, he should generate some appointments. So he may set a goal of sending 100 emails a week. Also, if he makes telephone calls, he may get appointments. So he may set a goal of making 30 telephone calls a week. The so those are measuring his activities, but they are not measuring the result of his activity. So he kind of knows that in the business that if he makes his 100 emails a week, he should get to appointments from that. And so he is going to measure how many appointments he gets from his email listing or his sending of emails. And he knows that if he gets at least 2 appointments from his emails, his email approach is working well. So, and if he knows that his telephone appointment setting should result in 2 appointments a week, and he gets more than 2 appointments a week, he knows that he's doing well, and he knows that if he's getting less than that, he's not doing well. So my recommendation would be to track the activity. Am I making the emails that I need to make? Am I making the telephone calls that I need to make? But also, am I tracking the results of those? So are my emails resulting in appointments? Are my telephone calls resulting in appointments? And then determine whether or not you're doing well compared to the industry and whether you're doing well compared to yourself in the past. So, we want to make sure that we evaluate how well our skill is on things by not just judging ourself against our past self, but also kind of having an idea of how we stand in our industry, in our region. And so, and especially if you have some ideas about whether you're underperforming, how you can improve. So if you know that on average in your industry 100 telephone calls results in 5 appointments, but you also know that in your region that 100 telephone calls generally results in 1 appointment, you kind of know that there's something special about your region that causes it to underperform the industry. And you can use that knowledge to either modify the way you make your telephone calls, or you can use it to decide that maybe making telephone calls is a bad strategy and you want to use some other strategy. So, by paying attention to our activities, we know that, okay, well, if I'm not making my phone calls and I've got less appointments, I can blame it on the fact that, I'm just not putting in the effort. And so I need to really focus on, just doing the base effort, making sure I'm showing up every day and doing the work. Whereas when we start looking at the results of my effort, we can decide, do I need to make changes to what I'm doing? Is something that I did last year not working this year? Do I need to change my tactics? Or do I need to revamp how I'm approaching things? So we need to really focus our goals on, are we actually doing things? But we need to also take a look at our results and determine if we need to shake things up. And one of the things that we might want to put in our yearly goals is to do a monthly assessment of our activities to find out if they're actually producing for us, because that's something that we should do regularly. If we're not looking at what works and what doesn't work, we really don't know if we're carrying out the right activities. So that maybe adding a goal that is evaluating your activities is is an important step. Maybe that's right for you. Again, I tend to look at things Monday morning. I tend to look at what produced and what didn't produce the prior week. So I have a weekly evaluation of critical success factors. I like to do that first thing in Monday morning, because that gives me a chance to change my plan for the week and make adjustments. You can kind of, that might be too frequent for you. You might want to do it monthly. You might want to do it quarterly. You might want to do it personally once a week, and if you have a team, do it monthly or quarterly. So, do what makes sense, but keep thinking about focusing on doing the right things, making sure you put in that effort, but then making sure that effort pays by judging their results and evaluating their results. So you really need to focus on two different things. Focus on the effort, focus on the results. And I think you're going to get a better outcome than focusing on either. So if you just evaluate, did I do the work? Did I show up, make the phone calls, make the emails? You could be putting in a lot of effort that doesn't produce a lot of results. You're not judging whether or not your skill at making telephone calls is improving, or your ability to write emails is improving. But it is important to know that, hey, I might have 15 customers showing up that get in my way of doing this, and so I'm not able to do it. So you might need to evaluate your scheduling of the day, so you can get in and get those reps in. And if you only look at the results, it's a really difficult position to be in, because you don't know whether you're getting good results or bad results, or what you're doing. So it's really hard to diagnose what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and improve if you only look at the results, because you don't know how you got the results. So that's a little bit more about how you set up metrics and how you set up goals. And I hope it clarifies what Vicki and I were talking about. And again, that's one of the things that she and I, both of our businesses can help you with. She's really great on the training side. So if you need some help on setting those goals up, I'd be glad to talk with you. And if you need help in setting up a training program so that your team follows them and understands them, and you do the rollout, Vicki's an excellent person to work with. And again, I've spent a lot of time on this, because I think this is one of the most important topics that there is, because a lot of times in our business we get lost in doing our business, satisfying our customers, that we don't spend enough time working on our business and evaluating what we're doing and how we're doing it, and making sure that we're doing the right things. So anyway, that's I didn't think that the talk we had in the past was confusing on that, but apparently it wasn't. I wanted to make sure we answered it. All right, that was all the questions that came in that needed a general response. Anything else that came in that was very unique, I just did a one-to-one answer. Next week is going to be really good. It's somebody I really wanted to talk to for a really long time. Robin Rogers is going to join us, and she is a fantastic health and wellness coach. Really knows her stuff, and she's going to talk to us about what it takes to have a healthy and balanced and happy life. It's going to be a great discussion. Get your questions in either during the live stream or you can also email them beforehand and watch it later. It's questions at martinmilligan.me. It's going to be in the show notes anyway. Yeah, that's going to be an exciting show. And again, the week after, we're going to have our friends in the insurance industry come in, and I got a panel of guys who are going to answer questions about all of the junk insurance that we get advertised. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I am so paranoid about that stuff. You always get the buried line questions, or hey, do you have life flight insurance? I think it's fun to go through and actually understand that stuff. So that's going to be a great discussion. Anyway, right now we don't have any other no new questions in the chat. So we're going to go ahead and end the stream, and we will see you next week.